Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anastasia, and this is my presentation on development in utero. So it starts with 3 stages of prenatal development: germinal, embryonic, and fetal. The germinal stage starts from when the sperm and the egg cell come together. At this point, the neural plate forms in the outermost layer of embryonic cells. This then forms into the neural groove and then curves into a neural tube. So here is where the neural tube is inside of there, seen over here as well. This tube separates into the forebrain, hindbrain, and spinal cord. This means that the central nervous system is now developing. So here are the separate parts of the brain, and I'm going to break it down really quickly. So right here is the forebrain, and that translates sensory stimulation and controls complex behaviors, thoughts, memories, and problem solving. Then we go into the midbrain, which is located here, and that becomes a relay station where it sends information from the body to the brain. Then over here we have the hindbrain, which will control the most basic physiological processes such as breathing and heart rate. And then lastly, we go into the spinal cord, which is the pathway for conveying information between the brain to the body. Now we're moving into the embryonic stage, which is 3 to 8 weeks, where formation really starts to begin. Around the 4th week, the head and cardiovascular system start to develop, meaning that there are eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and the blood vessel that becomes the heart starts to pulse. This is also when 2 distinct hemispheres of the cerebral cortex start to begin. So the hemisphere would be right there in the middle. By the end of the embryonic stage, basic structures of the brain and central nervous system have been established. As neurons form, they then move into their designated spots in the brain and begin to form connections with other neural cells. Neurogenesis, which is the formation of neural cells, starts to occur. This means that new nerve cells move outward to their final destination from the glial cell. The glial cells form the underlying structure of the nervous system. Once they've reached their destinations, they take on characteristics that sections of the brain, then forming connections with other neurons. They form these connections through dendrites and axons. The dendrites, which are located here and here, the dendrites that form receive the incoming signals, while axon terminals, which are located here, these little circle things, carry out ongoing signals to other neurons. This cell growth process continues into a newborn's first year of life. These connections go smoothly. For these connections to go smoothly, the neurotransmitters allow for crossings at the end of the axon terminal across the synapses to a receiving dendrite of a neuron. So here's where the axons begin, and then we follow it through, and here is where a neurotransmitter will allow the crossing to go into the dendrite of another neuron. Lastly, we enter the fetal stage, where embryo enters the next stage known as a fetus. By weeks 8 to 26 of this stage, the cerebral cortex begins to form to cover the midbrain. By week 28, the cortex grows even more and starts to become wrinkled and folded inside of the skull. These folds are very important and are formally known as gyri, which is this section. And then we have the sulci, which is the folded area. They help create a network which allows the brain to be flexible and precise for processing information. Around this week 28 period, The brain also starts to mature faster with activity that resembles that of a newborn. As the fetus continues to develop throughout the months, they put on weight and prepare for life outside the womb. Although physical development is important, it is also imperative that the brain develops smoothly as well. The brain development that takes place during the prenatal period helps set the course for what will take place outside of the womb. This does not mean that the brain development ends inside the womb, though. There is a considerable amount of development that takes place postnatally, such as growth in size and volume while structures change. I'm going to end this with a little fun fact that the brain grows about 4 times its size between birth and preschool. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation on development in utero.